Welcome to English Storytime Adventures. In today's video, we're going to listen to an exciting short story that will help you improve your English skills. Listen carefully and follow along with the subtitles. Before we begin, here are some key words you'll hear in the story. Pay attention to their meaning and try to use them in your own sentences later.
Effort, the physical or mental energy used to achieve something. Point, the purpose or reason for something. Review, to look over or examine something again, especially to improve. Fabrication, something that is invented or made up, often false.
Now that you're familiar with these words, let's begin the story.
In the early hours of the morning, the forest was silent except for the soft rustling of leaves. The sun had not yet risen, and the mist still hung low over the ground. Mark stood at the edge of the woods, tightening the straps of his backpack. This was not his first time out hunting, but each time required the same level of focus and effort. He knew that success in the wild was not guaranteed. Mark's friend Joe joined him shortly after. Joe was experienced, and Mark had always admired the way he moved quietly through the trees, like he was part of the forest itself. Today, they were after deer. It wasn't just about the meat for them. It was about learning patience, understanding nature, and most importantly, working hard together. "We have to keep quiet," Joe whispered. "The deer are clever. If we make one wrong move, they'll be gone before we even know it." Mark nodded, fully aware of the importance of every step they took. Each footfall had to be calculated, every breath controlled. The point of hunting, Joe always said, was not about getting the prize, but about the process. You have to respect the forest, the animals, and the balance of life. They walked for what felt like hours, scanning the trees, listening for any signs of movement. Mark could feel the tension building in his body, every muscle ready to spring into action. His thoughts began to wander to the last hunt they had gone on together. They had come back empty-handed, and Joe had told him afterward that it was necessary to review what went wrong. Every mistake could be a lesson. "Keep your eyes sharp," Joe whispered again, raising his hand to signal a stop. Mark froze, listening. There was a faint rustling ahead, barely audible. Joe gestured toward a thick cluster of trees. Slowly they moved forward, staying low, staying silent. As they neared the trees, Mark spotted the deer. It stood tall, its ears twitching slightly as if it could sense them but hadn't yet decided whether to flee. Joe nodded to Mark, signaling that this was his chance. Mark's heart pounded in his chest as he raised his bow. The world seemed to slow down around him. "Steady," Joe whispered, his voice barely more than a breath. Mark took aim. He had practiced for this moment countless times, but practice wasn't the same as reality. In that moment, he questioned everything, his effort, his preparation, and whether he was really ready. But he had to act. Hesitation would only cost them the chance. He released the arrow, and for a second, everything was still. Then, the deer bolted, disappearing into the trees. Mark's stomach dropped. Had he missed? He couldn't be sure. "We'll have to track it," Joe said quietly, clapping Mark on the back. "It happens. You put in the work, but not every shot hits." Mark nodded, feeling the weight of disappointment, but also the understanding that hunting wasn't about perfection. It was about the journey, the growth, and the realization that not everything in life was guaranteed, no matter how much effort you put in. Sometimes the reward was in the process itself. They followed the trail of broken branches and disturbed leaves, moving deeper into the woods. As they went, Joe shared stories of past hunts. Some were successful, others ended like today's might, without a catch. Each story was a reminder that the hunt was as much a mental game as it was physical. "Every hunt is a lesson," Joe said. "You can always review your mistakes, but don't beat yourself up. That's how you learn." After an hour of tracking, they found a small clearing. The deer was there, resting on the ground. Mark's arrow had struck true, though it hadn't been perfect. He approached cautiously, feeling a mixture of relief and respect. The hunt was over, and the lessons learned would stay with him forever. As they packed up and began the trek home, Mark thought about the importance of effort and how much he had learned from his time in the forest. Joe had been right all along. The point was never just about the kill. It was about becoming a better hunter and a better person with every step.
Great job following along with the story. Now, let's review the key words we learned today.
Effort, the physical or mental energy used to achieve something. Example from the story. Mark knew that success in the wild was not guaranteed no matter how much effort he put in. Point, the purpose or reason for something. Example from the story. The point of hunting, Joe always said, was not about getting the prize but about the process. Review, to look over or examine something again, especially to improve. Example from the story. Joe had told him afterward that it was necessary to review what went wrong. Fabrication, something that is invented or made up, often false. Example from the story. There was no room for fabrication in hunting. You had to rely on your skills and instincts.
Now, let's check your understanding of the story. See if you can answer these questions.
Question 1. Can you think of another word to describe Mark's emotions when he released the arrow? Why do you think that word fits? Question 2. How did the concept of effort play a significant role in the story? Can you give an example from the text?
Feel free to pause the video and write down your answers in the comments. Great work today. Well done. You've just completed another story with English Storytime Adventures. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more fun and educational stories. And don't forget to leave a comment with your thoughts or answers to the questions. I'd love to see how much you've learned. Keep practicing, and I'll see you in the next episode of English Storytime Adventures. Until then, happy learning.